come on in. Breach, how are you doing today?
Hi.
Talk to me.
Egberto?
Yes, it's Egberto.
It's Breach MCP.
Hey, Breach, how are you doing, my dear friend? Talk to me.
I'm good. I wanted to know if you'd explain, because I get very confused. And I'm sorry, I have to turn this down.
Turn it down so that we can, Go ahead.
Yeah. I was having a talk with my brother, and he was saying Medicare Advantage is just a private company like anybody else.
Yes, he's correct.
And I said, yes, that's correct, but it's not good. And for some reason, I couldn't think of an answer.
Let me give you the answer to that, okay? Medicare Advantage is just like having your regular standard insurance, private insurance right now, whether crappy as it is or good as it is, okay? If you want something good, you pay for it. The difference here is Medicaid Advantage is paid for by the government at a premium. In other words, Medicare Advantage costs the government more than standard Medicare. And the companies that run the private companies that run Medicare Advantage ensures that the government will not provide dental, ears, and eyes within the cost of Medicare, the standard Medicare as it is. Now, here's an important factor here. There's some very, very important factors people have to understand. When you buy Medicare, you also need to purchase, or it is suggested that you also purchase something called Medigap. Medigap is private insurance to cover the part of insurance, the 20% that Medicare does not cover. But when you are originally signing up for Medicare, standard Medicare, those prices for the Medigap is controlled, and you cannot be placed into the market as far as whether you're sick before or not. If you sign up, if you decide to follow what you're watching on TV right now, and you sign up for Standard Medicare Advantage, if you find out that you don't like the doctors for the plans that you have or for all these Medicare Advantage plans, and you decide that you want to go back to Standard Medicare because Standard Medicare allows you to go to any doctor. That's the difference between the private sector and the government sector in Medicare Advantage. In Medicare, the private sector running Medicare Advantage, they tell you what medicines you can take. They tell you what doctors you can see. They tell you what hospitals you can go to. Standard Medicare, you can do whatever your doctor says, whatever you want to do. But if you leave Medicare Advantage to come back to Medicare, Standard Medicare, at that point, Medicare Advantage, Medigap will say, well, were you sick? And all these other things that if you were sick, you will either not get Medigap or have to pay a very high premium to get Medigap. Likewise, if you're just staying with Standard Medicare, you don't get eye coverage for free. You don't get ears, eyes, and teeth for free. Here's the kicker. It may cost you a bit more Standard Medicare than what you get from Medicare Advantage. But I always tell people it is important for you to ask the question, who gives you something for nothing? If you're on Medicare Advantage, and I'm not saying it's bad or whatever, it depends on, and you're locked in, remember that that's just what it is. You're locked in until the next year where you choose another plan that maybe is better for you, but you decide you want to go to Jamaica, you decide you want to go to Europe, you have some issues with that as well. Because again, only emergencies are covered. And I mean, so I don't have all the time to go into all the things, but my good friend, Tom Hartman, he wrote the book on healthcare that also includes some of the stuff we spoke about here. That is a must-see for all our great seniors out there that are making that important choice now as to whether to go to the private sector for their healthcare or stick with a good run medical program that costs 2% in overhead versus over 30% plus theft in the Medicare Advantage field.
So if you go to your secondary, we're talking like Medicare Advantage is a secondary, then if you have somebody else, I don't know, I have NISHIP, and say I switch to, which I never would, but I switch to Medicare Advantage. Now, don't certain insurance companies like Humira have Medicare Advantage programs?
Yes, all of them have. And that's the thing. They all, you want to say something?
Well, yeah, because I've had to deal with this because I turned 65 recently.
Right.
And so I've been a couple of years jumping into how this all works. And so I went with regular Medicare, and I got a little additional policy. So my Part D is I've got a little extra for prescription drugs, and then I've got the Medigap, which is another additional one that I pay for both of those. Right, and it's over 150. Okay. Well, it's over $150 a month that I maybe wouldn't have to pay if I did a Medicare Advantage plan that replaced all of those. But as Egberto was saying, the Medicare Advantage has all these restrictions. One, the big one for me, my doctor that saved my life 20 years ago, he's not part of a Medicare Advantage plan. He says, we take regular Medicare and that's it, So if you switch to an Advantage plan, you're going to have to find a new doctor. It's like, well, geez, that's sort of, I don't like that limitation among many other limitations.
There's so many limitations.
So do you have to join, is Medigap part of Medicare, or do you have to join it?
It's when you get Medicare, you have a window of time where you get a supplemental benefit insurance plan, and it's mandated through the government if you do it during the window that you have, that it doesn't have any of those testing requirements built into it. If you left and did an Advantage and came back, then you'd have to go through basically qualifying examinations and things like that. You would find that maybe you're being restricted out. Maybe a pre-existing condition would raise your supplemental rate more high than you'd be willing to pay, and it would leave you in a bit of a lurch.
So I had regular medical insurance, and when I went out in disability, I got Medicare, and my regular insurance automatically became my secondary.
Right.
So I guess I was not in Medigap.
No, that's not that is because you came into the Medicare via disability, which is a different story. Different story. But here's the deal: when you are going to be on Medicare only, because I think eventually you would be, that is what's going to be covering you. I can't give advice officially, but we've just given you all the caveats that there are if you decide to go with Medicare Advantage versus. But hold 1 second. I want to ask our listeners one more time, folks. 713-526-5738. I want to give a big thank you to Jeanette. Very big thank you. Please, folks, we need some more calls. 713-526-5738. 713-526-5738, or go to kpft.org to support this station. And by the way, by having Bridge MCP call us here, think about that. How many people have learned about Medicare because there's a KPFT that's willing to tell the truth? Because none of those companies that are doing Medicare Advantage are here to advertise on KPFT. Because why, Dwayne? We are what kind of station again?
We are the People's Radio station.
We are the People's Radio.
Hey, and here's a tip. I would maybe share this with you as well. There's an organization called Healthcare for All Texas. Yes. I've always called them HCFAT. HCFAT, Healthcare for All Texas.
That sounds like Dwayne, man.
So look up HCFAT, Google them, and that will maybe take you down a couple of information avenues that provides a lot of great help. In fact, some of our donors right here, Bridge MCP, are some of the are on the board of not the board, but they really organize with that company. So it's a good one to look at. But so tell your brother and tell your brother, if he wants to have a conversation here on KPFT or anything, we love the conversation, because we're not about fighting about stuff. We're about talking about stuff, as you well know.
Well, he had somebody come to the house and he just switched over because that's the window.
Right.
So he just switched over to Humira or something. But I wanted to give him more information, but I forgot about Tom Hartman.
Yes,
I was looking up some of your stories, and I was like, where did he talk about this?
Yeah. Well, in fact, Bridge, I interviewed Tom Hartman twice on this subject, actually.
I know, and I couldn't find it.
Yeah. So, I mean, we'll talk about it. But look, my dear, beautiful lady, thank you so kindly for giving us a call.
Thank you.
And see you at 3.
Shout out to Ashley.
All right. We spend a lot of time deconstructing the news, trying to parse it into a form that everybody can understand. We try to find those little nitpicks where it flies above the fray, etc. If you really like these videos that we do, I want to ask a big favor. Please go ahead. Number 1, subscribe to our channel, and number 2, please join if you can. Thank you so kindly for watching. Keep watching. Please remember to share. We must populate the entire internet with our progressive message, a message that we know is what most Americans say that they want. So help us, please join.